Hello, welcome to English Owl Lesson 38. Let's have a look at our vocabulary for this lesson. Horrible, lazy, cottage, stove, fetch, rubbish, motion, wink. Let's have a closer look at those words. Horrible, horrible, not pleasant, very ugly or bad. Example: the giant troll was a horrible monster. Now it's your turn. Make a sentence including the word horrible. Lazy, lazy. Not willing to give much effort or to work. Example: watching TV all day makes you lazy. Your turn. Make a sentence including the word lazy. Cottage, a small house. Example: grandmother lived in a cottage on the edge of the forest. Your turn. Make a sentence including the word cottage. Stove, stove. A device that burns fuel to provide heat for cooking. Example: you must be careful when using the stove. Your turn. Make a sentence including the word stove. Fetch, fetch. To go for something and bring back. Example: a good dog will fetch the ball. Your turn. Make a sentence including the word fetch. Rubbish, rubbish. Material that is thrown away or useless. Garbage. Example: our rubbish is picked up once a week. Your turn. Make a sentence including the word rubbish. Motion, motion. The process or continuous action of moving. Example: the motion of the sea made her sick. Your turn. Make a sentence including the word motion. Wink, wink. To close and open one eye quickly. Example: Uncle Joe always winks at people he likes. Your turn. Make a sentence including the word wink. Brilliant. Well done. Now, Let's have a story and look for the words in our vocabulary list. The Lazy Giant by Ivan Jones. Chapter 1. The Giant. Once there was a horrible old giant. He lived in a big castle on the top of a mountain, and he was very lazy. The giant was so lazy he needed servants to look after him. But nobody wanted to work for him at all. One day the giant went down the mountain. At the bottom was a little cottage. 12 children lived there, all on their own. The girls were called Lottie, Dottie and Tottie, and Bessie, Jessie and Nessie. And the boys were called Cliff, Riff and Sniff, and Ken, Ben and Den. Now they would make good servants, thought the giant. So he carried them off back to his castle. Chapter 2. Is my breakfast ready? Every morning the children had to get up very early, light the big stove and fetch lots of water. Then they had to make a huge pot of porridge for the giant. At 6 o'clock the giant would yell, "Is my breakfast ready?" But one morning the children woke up a bit late. The stove wouldn't light and the water wouldn't flow, so the giant's porridge was lumpy. "You lazy lot!" roared the giant. All the children started to shake. The castle itself began to quake. The giant was so angry, he picked up Tottie and dropped her into his bowl of porridge. Now, Tottie was the smallest child of all. She was only as tall as the giant's boot. Her little yellow hat fell off and bobbed on top of the porridge. "Yuck, yuck, yuck!" cried Tottie. "I may be teeny, but I do not scream, not even for a giant so mean." As soon as the giant's back was turned, Lottie and Dottie pulled Tottie out. Without her hat, she looked smaller than ever. Chapter 3. Is my castle clean? Every afternoon the children had to polish and rub, sweep and scrub, and everything had to shine like a new pin. At 2 o'clock the giant would yell, "Is my castle clean?" But one afternoon the polish ran out. The head fell off the broom and the bristles fell out of the great scrubbing brush. And the giant found some cobwebs in a corner. "You dirty dopes!" boomed the giant. All the children started to shake. The castle itself began to quake. The giant was so angry that he picked up Nessie and dropped her into the waste paper basket. Now, Nessie was the untidiest of all the children. She always left things on the floor and forgot to comb her hair. "Ugh!" she cried. "I'm in a stew. There's rubbish all over me. What can I do?" But as soon as the giant's back was turned, Bessie and Jessie pulled Nessie out. Poor Nessie, she looked untidier than ever. Every night the children had to warm the giant's bed with a big hot water bottle, and the sheets had to be clean and smooth. At 10 o'clock the giant would growl, "Is my bed ready?" But one night the hot water bottle had a hole in it. Water ran onto the bed, and the giant found the sheets were cold and damp. "You dozy drips!" roared the giant. All the children started to shake. The castle itself began to quake. The giant was so angry that he picked up Sniff and dropped him in the wash basin. It was huge. Now, Sniff always had a cold, but he never moaned. He was always cheerful. "Help!" he cried. "This basin is like an ocean. It has a very choppy motion. The water's rough and dirty brown. Get me out before I drown." As soon as the giant's back was turned, Riff and Cliff fished out Sniff. After his swim in the giant's basin, Sniff sniffed worse than ever. Chapter 4. Hurry Up. Every Sunday, the children had to get the giant's carriage ready. They had to pull it up and down the mountain. He would lie on soft cushions inside it. At 11 o'clock, the giant would roar, "Where is my carriage?" But one Sunday it rained, and the lane was muddy, and the wheels were wobbly, and so the giant wasn't going as fast as he liked. He roared, "Hurry up, you little rats!" All the children started to shake. The carriage itself began to quake. The giant was so angry that he reached out of the window and gave Den a push. Now Den was the strongest of all the children. He rolled and rolled until he was out of sight. When the other children saw what the giant had done, they were very upset. But they pulled the carriage to the top of the mountain. Then Lottie whispered to Dottie and Tottie. Tottie whispered to Bessie. Bessie whispered to Jessie and Nessie. Nessie whispered to Cliff. Cliff whispered to Riff and Sniff. And Sniff whispered to Ben and Ken. They all nodded. The children gave the carriage a huge push. The carriage raced down the hill. It creaked and rattled. It banged and clattered. The giant bounced out of the carriage. He rolled down the mountain until boing, boing, splosh, he fell into a muddy hole. Chapter 5. Just in time. The giant was very angry. "You nincompoops," he roared, "get me out!" But the children were safely out of the giant's reach. And then Ken and Ben heard a voice. "Help," it said. "Den I was, and den I am. I thought I'd never see you again, but thanks to the tree on the side of the hill, your strongest friend is with you still." Den was hanging on a tree branch. As quickly as they could, the children rescued him. They were only just in time. "Get me out of here!" the giant was bellowing and banging, yelling and thumping. He made so much noise, the rocks on the mountain began to tumble. Before the giant could say, "You blockheads," a big rock rolled down the mountain and clonked him on the head. He was knocked out cold. Quick as a wink, the children ran down the mountainside, laughing and shouting. They were so happy to go back home again. As for the giant, he got himself out of the hole and crawled back to his castle. He never tried to catch the children again. And so, if he ever wanted anything done, he had to do it himself. The end. Brilliant. Well done. Thank you. Bye-bye.